In this video, I'm going to teach you how to identify, clarify, and magnify your ideal client so you can build your business. Now, honestly, this is one of the biggest areas of resistance for coaches, especially new coaches. And there's so much emphasis being put on identifying your target client or target market that a lot of coaches feel like if I don't do that first, then I can't get in motion. So there's a lot of pressure in this area. Now, I've been coaching in this industry for over 13 years. I've been teaching coaches for many, many years now, and there's a reason there's so much emphasis on this particular concept. It's because it actually really is important, especially in today's marketing world. Now, before we get into the content, I publish videos every week, so let's make sure you're all subscribed up now and click that little bell icon so that you get the notifications every time we go live or publish a video. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Sean Smith. I am the founder of Elite Coaching University, where we give you the skills to be a better coach and the strategies to build a bigger business. And in this video, I'm going to teach you the process that I use and that I teach my clients to use in order to really, truly identify and then magnify your ideal client. So before I share with you the exercise, let's talk about the context for a little bit. Because if you don't really, truly understand why this is so important, then the exercise isn't going to matter all that much. The reason this is so important is because you need a certain kind of energy in your marketing and your messaging, especially nowadays. And if what you're trying to do is appeal to a bunch of different people about a bunch of different things, you're going to really struggle and you're actually going to be doing them a disservice. So if you've gone through any kind of ideal client or avatar exercise, they ask you to figure out what the profile is of the person that you want to serve or that you want to sell your products to, right? So what do they look like? How old are they? Where do they live? And that really shuts a lot of people down because we tend to have this story in our head that we don't want to be stupid, we don't want to be wrong, and so we always want to be right. And there's basically no way you're ever going to fill out an ideal client profile like that and get it right. But what you have to understand is that the point is not to get it right. The point is to get in motion and to have enough clarity that you start marketing in such a way that attracts people. And the cool thing is what you'll find is that when you start marketing to a single person in a way that's attractive, you will actually draw in other people that don't necessarily match those demographics. What you will start to appeal to is the psychographics. So the demographics are the measurable, observable, tangible traits of a person. It's like we're building this profile out. But the psychographics is what's going on internally inside their head. Now the psychographics are way more important, but what I found is the best way to get to those psychographics is through the demographics. And the reason you really have to tap into these psychographics is that in today's world, everywhere we go, we're being bombarded with marketing. Companies, marketers, commercials, the media, they're just trying to pull our attention in all these different ways. And so our society has really kind of put their blinders on and sort of started to protect themselves from being pulled with all this marketing. But if you can tap into their psychographics and you can enter a conversation that's already going on in their head, now they have to pay attention to you. And once they give you their attention, you're going to have them individually engaged. And that individual engagement is impossible to do when you're trying to speak to a group of people. Now, I know this is hard for the normal bleeding heart coach because we want to help everybody. But I don't want you to think about getting rid of certain people. That's why a lot of coaches don't want to do this work. They don't want to say no or abandon certain people. So it's not about saying I'm only going to serve this one person and nobody else. I want you to think about just putting them in line. So the first person you're going to serve is this one. And then the next one is this one. And then the next one is this one. I've found that that removes a lot of the resistance for coaches that go, oh my goodness, thank you for not telling me that I have to ignore all these people that I want to help. Because the reality is, you've probably heard some version of this, if you try to help everyone, you'll end up helping no one. So the second thing I want to do here is change the language. I've been using the normal labels that you hear a lot, ideal client or target market or avatar. But I remember thinking one day that didn't feel good to me to try to identify a target. And then I was going to go hunt after that target basically. And I just had this epiphany that there are a lot of people out there already searching and seeking what I know. They're already searching for it. And so I now call that person your seeker. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to refer to your ideal client as your seeker. And what I found is that shifts the way you look at these people. If somebody's already searching for what you have, they're wanting you to give it to them. You're not chasing them down and having to convince them that they should buy your product. They're already searching, and then we just need to get in front of them. And that puts us in a different energy. It puts us in an energy of service rather than an energy of sales. And for most coaches, if we feel like we need to chase people down and sell to them, that's going to shut our energy down. So the more that we're in a place of serving our seeker, the more calm we will generally be and the better everything is going to go. So let's get into the exercise, but I need a flip chart. Wonder Twin powers, shape of a flip chart. Danger, danger, danger. Okay, so when it comes to identifying your seeker, I teach the llama's eye method because I think a llama is cooler than a bull. I think it's like a nicer, cuter, more loving animal. So the concept here is that the closer you can get to the eye of the llama, the more attractive your marketing is actually going to be. And the best case scenario is when you are serving an earlier version of you. That means somebody that's walking on the path that you have walked, or you might even still be walking, but they're just further behind you. That doesn't mean they're younger than you necessarily, but they're further behind you on that path. And if they are at least a half a step behind you, then you can help them. You don't have to wait until you get to the top of the mountain and solve all your problems before you turn around and you have the permission to serve people. Now, the reason that the middle of the llama's eye is so important is because that's where all of your personal stories are. So you can tell people stories of what you used to think about a couple years ago, 20 years ago, whenever you're talking about the point on the path that they now are in. And because we operate so similarly as humans, if you're talking about stories that were real for you back then, they're probably going to be real for them right now. And then you don't have to try to memorize stories. You're just telling what's real for you. And because you're sharing this neurological experience that's coming from your body, you'll be tapping into the neurological experiences that are currently inside their bodies as well. So that's why the magnetism is so powerful when you speak to an earlier version of yourself. Now, a lot of people don't want to do this because the closer to the middle of the llama's eye you get, the hotter it gets. You kind of turn the heat up when you start to get very real, but the very fact that the heat is up and the vulnerability is high is the reason it will attract people better. And it's the reason that when they feel your energy and when they know that you're really truly speaking to them, they will be attracted a lot more, a lot stronger, and they will be a lot more loyal to this conversation because you've actually tapped into something that they're feeling. Not just what they're thinking, but what they're feeling. And the best way to tap into somebody else's true feelings is to tap into yours. They're going to be like, man, is she talking directly to me? Or is he in my head? So of course, I'll usually joke around and say, yes, I am. But the reality is I'm speaking to what was real for me. So I'm in my head, but back where they are. And it's such an energetic match and alignment that then they trust you. And the reason they trust you is because they see themselves in you. And what's really important about this is if I believe that you know how I'm feeling, then I also believe that you can help me. So if I trust you and believe that you can help me, why would I not say yes? So it's kind of like a nozzle on a hose. If you have it on the spray setting, you can spray a larger amount of surface area with the water, but it's going to come off very soft. So you might think that you're actually attracting more people, but the water's just barely touching them. Whereas if you squeeze the trigger and you shoot out that concentrated spray, then you're not going to spray as much surface area, but you're going to have a lot more power in the water. The same thing goes when it comes to the energy in our language. If we're speaking to a specific person, the energy in our language, the connection in our heart is going to attract not just that person, but people from all around. So when that powerful stream of water hits the wall, then it sprays outward. And that's how you attract everybody else. So it's not in trying to spray them all coming out of the nozzle. It's in the byproduct of being so specific that people's psychographics get engaged and they have to pay attention. So let me give you an example of what this could look like. I had a client one time who wanted to speak about dealing with the death of a parent, and her father had died. So we started talking about who it is that she should actually target. The ideal scenario would be as close to her exact details as possible. So the ideal scenario would be if she wants to teach women who've lost their fathers. Now I put the word lost in parentheses. From a coaching perspective, we usually don't want to use that word to apply to death because it actually creates a lot of attachment and it prolongs the grief. However, from a marketing standpoint, you also want to use the words that people are using. So since a lot of people use that word for death, then I would suggest you use it. Now, in the conversation of women who've lost their fathers, there's a special, specific relationship between father-daughter that you can speak to. So if somebody has just experienced the death of a father and they see a video that is titled How Women Can Overcome the Loss of Their Father, and then they see another video that says How to Overcome Grief After Death, which one do you think they're going to click on? Because the video that's talking about women losing their dads is speaking directly to them. And that kind of specificity is almost impossible for our minds to not chase. So when we get hyper specific, the level of attraction is incredible. But let's say she decides that she doesn't actually want to speak to those exact people in the middle of the llama's eye for whatever reason. Maybe she finds out that they actually don't want to hire coaches, or they're just not a big enough market for whatever reason. If she doesn't want to go there, then I would say let's go one level out. Just open it up a little bit, but stay as close to the middle as we possibly can. So maybe the next option is women who've lost any parent. And then let's say for whatever reason, after exploring that one, she chooses not to do it. So the next one out could be the loss of a parent. So you could be a man or a woman and you could have lost your mother or father and she wants to teach them. Or if that doesn't work out, she can expand it to grief in general as it relates to death. Or if that doesn't work out, maybe she just wants to do grief of all things. Could be the loss of a job or the breakup of a relationship. So these are all different options that are valid, but you just have to understand that the rules are different at each one of these levels. The more general you go, the better you have to be at marketing. You have to market over and over and over and over again because there are a lot more people out here. There's a lot more competition. You're going up against a lot of other companies or other coaches maybe that might have a lot more money than you or bigger teams than you. And so it seems like you're using a much wider net, and you are, but the holes in the net are much bigger also. But again, you can overcome some of that with constant, consistent marketing. I just don't suggest that. And see, my philosophy in building a business is to remove as many variables as possible. The further out you go, the more variables there are, and one of the biggest variables is your certainty. So when you start teaching grief in general, and people start coming to you and say, what do I do if I lost my job? And you've not lost your job, then you don't have the certainty, you don't have the body in that moment to handle that conversation because that's not an earlier phase of your path. So the wider the net you try to cast, the less certainty you generally have. And when you try to build a business with a lot of variables and low certainty, that's not going to be easy. So I would rather you remove as many variables as possible, speak to this specific seeker, and then learn what you need to learn in your business in order to be successful here. And then you can build out. If you build a foundation right here, then you can start to expand. And it's much easier to build a solid foundation and expand out than to just try to build a wide structure from the get-go without a solid foundation. Now, like I said, most people don't want to do this. They want to go wide. They want to play it safe out here. They don't want to tell these vulnerable stories. And they also see that a lot of the mentors they're following are speaking in a lot more general terms. And they forget that a lot of those people started hyper-specific, got successful, and then expanded out. So if you try to model somebody that's gone inside out, but you try to model what you're looking at from outside this big bubble, that's a mistake. Unless you have a lot of money, you got a lot of resources, you got a big team, there's just way too many variables out here for most people to succeed. Now, if you haven't even started doing this work, what I would suggest you do is take some time and just jot down like 5 to 10 significant life events that you've experienced. You were looking backwards into your journey. And think about the lessons that you've learned from each one of those experiences, and then just see what you're drawn to. See which ones start to light you up. See what stories start to come back into your body. And that will be a way to look backwards on your journey and pick something out rather than from where you are now intellectually go, what am I excited about learning? What am I excited about teaching? It's better to go, what are the lessons that I've learned in my life that are the most valuable for the seekers out there currently searching for it? And if you want any of my support on the level of clarity for your seeker or anything related to this conversation, go ahead and comment down below and either myself or my team will respond and help you however we can. Now, if you like this conversation, you know this is going to be valuable for your business. I have a much more in-depth training on this where I'll walk you through a document that has a lot of those psychographics as well as the demographics, and I'll train you in a bunch of those different areas to really get your marketing and your messaging to a place where you are hyper attractive to your ideal seekers. If you want to get your hands on that training, I'll put the link right below the video, or you can go to coachseansmith.com/seeker training. So I hope this was valuable. If you liked this video, please let me know by liking, commenting, subscribing. Feel free to share it with your tribe if you know people that would benefit from this information. I look forward to hearing how this benefits you, and I'll see you in another video. I'm also trying to not get too far onto the camera so they can see that I'm rocking sweatpants here with my shirt.